You're watching the 2024 SCAC Softball Media Days. Today, we're taking a look at the Texas Lutheran University softball program. The Bulldogs will once again be led as they head into the season of the guy at the head coach, Wade Wilson, along with the leadership from senior Sydney Ouellette. Coach, Sid, thanks so much.
Good morning.
Morning.
Sydney, we'll jump in with you. You had an opportunity back in October with your teammates to go on a pretty special trip, heading overseas to Italy, checking out Rome, the Amalfi Coast. And I'm interested just to kind of hear a little bit about that experience, about that trip, maybe not so much specifically about the softball portion of it, but what you enjoyed as far as, getting to explore a new part of the world with your teammates and how those type of experiences can continue to build the culture that this TLU program has there.
Yeah, so I think we all saw that trip as a blessing for the team as a whole. Not many people get to say that they traveled the world with their best friends, but much less play the sport they love as well. And I think that's something that we, are going to be able to take into the season chemistry wise. We not only got to spend a whole week with our teammates, but we got to spend a week with parents and grandparents and family friends who have shaped our teammates into the people that they are today. And I think that's a unique perspective that we get to have like into this season, is being able to understand, who our teammates are and where they came from. And I think that's only going to help us in the long run, chemistry wise. It was such a unique experience. I think we all came back more humbled and grateful for the things that we often take for granted. And I think it truly was a once in a lifetime opportunity. And I think, we're going to be able to hit the ground running early in the season. So,
Coach, I feel oftentimes I talk to athletes about kind of the reset process going from season to season, but I don't hear from coaches as much about what that's like from a head coach, standpoint. You're a part of that journey that starts all the way back in preseason and the climb to try to get to the mountaintop and playing well into May is the hope for every year. And when that ends, how do you go about that process as a coach? What does that look like for you as you start to then turn the page to a new season, and how excited are you to be back and getting ready to start a new year?
It's funny, after the game, when your season's over with, you go through that, and there's that letdown, and that it's not necessarily a relief, but you can almost feel the pressure of the season just kind of escape you, right? And by the time you're on the bus, it's for me as a coach, it seems like I'm always working on next year's lineup that quick. I mean, as soon as you get on the bus, who's going to take this spot, and then you kind of get into it. And then by the time you get home and through that weekend or that week, you're into down mode. For me, and that's more times than not, it's just spending time with my family, playing some golf. It's been what I've been doing lately for sure. And it's been a great escape for me because it's easy to get caught up in that, and I think being able to recharge our batteries is crucial. And we're fortunate at the Division III level that we have more time to do that. It's not as cutthroat as it is at the Division I and Division II levels, or even the JUCO level for that matter. So it's not a tough process by any means, but it's you just got to figure out and learn from your mistakes, not necessarily mistakes, but your woes, and how can you be better?
Sid, for you going into this your final senior season, and you look at your career and you've had so much success, and going back to those first seasons and going through COVID and all the things that you had to overcome, and you get this extra year of eligibility, and you decide to come back and take advantage of that. What went into that decision? What continued to motivate you, inspire you, knowing the hard work that it takes, the effort, the time, the energy that it takes to be a part of this program, to be the player that you want to be? Kind of talk about that decision. What went into that? What inspired you, and how excited are you now that we're here to be at the start of your senior year?
Yeah, so he always tells us that to leave things better than we found it. And I think that's a question I asked myself at the end of season was I ready to stop playing softball, or is there more to this? Is there more that I can give to this program? And I felt like there was something else that I can give. And I'm not entirely sure what all that entails for this season, but I'm blessed to have been a part of TLU softball for the past 4 years. And I'm excited that I had this opportunity to play my 5th year. I was going to be here no matter what academically, because I'm doing my master's. But having that opportunity to play my 5th year was it's something special, and I'm excited to see where this group is going to take this upcoming season.
Coach, one of the things that's been so just remarkable to me, and something that I've really looked up to you throughout following your career, is just your relentless consistency. Now going into your 12th season there at TLU, you've won 400 games before you lost 100. You've never lost an SCAC series. Sprinkled in a national title in there, a runner-up, just incredibly consistent, relentlessly throughout the year. How would you describe yourself? What do players, what can they expect from you as a head coach, and how has that kind of created and been able to cultivate this consistency throughout the years there at TLU?
I don't. It's a tough question. It's hard to talk about yourself. And I think the thing, I've evolved a little bit. I think one of the big complaints, that we've talked about this several times with our players. One of the complaints, or what I heard a lot from the kids this past year or two, is that I've been too nice, right? Which is funny to me, because I've never had that, and I don't know that it's me getting a little older, a little wiser, or if maybe I'm just getting soft. I'm not sure. Maybe a combination of both. But I think the biggest thing for us is the honesty, and I tell our players all the time that if you don't know where you stand with me, that's your fault. It's not my fault, right? Because I'm brutally honest, and sometimes that's hard to hear, but we've got kids that it takes time to develop that relationship, and once that relationship is built, then you can pretty much get away with me being honest. I know Sid is here for a 5th year, and we're fortunate to have her and Ash both, and these guys that have taken advantage of the COVID situation. But when you have kids like that, it makes it a lot easier to have the success that we've had. We got kids that have been here 5 years. That's awesome. I don't have to say a lot. Our leadership this year is phenomenal. I mean, I've already seen it. We're so much ahead of the curve of where we've been the last few years. This group reminds me of the 19 team, not necessarily athletically, but leadership wise. We've got those kind of characters in place, and people that feel comfortable leading. And I think the success we've had has been because of those kind of individuals in our program, not necessarily the coaches, but the kind of players that we have. We've got kids that are going to be upstanding citizens, and they're great human beings, and it's easy for us as coaches to have those kind of relationships with them because they're good human beings.
Sid, as I've looked at your career, it's been outstanding, really going back to day one since you arrived there at TLU. Just 10 wins shy of jumping into the top 10 all time in terms of wins in SCAC softball history, nearly 150 strikeouts, a sub 150 ERA, and over 320 career innings pitched there. As you continue to work on your game and the offseason, what are some things that maybe you focused on, things that you've learned over the course of your years there at TLU that you think you can really take advantage of and help you heading into the season? And just how confident are you about your ability in the circle once again this year?
I think the biggest thing that I've learned over the course of my college career is to accept grace. I think we play a game of failure, and knowing that my 100% today could look very different tomorrow. And I think the biggest thing for me was learning how to trust in the 31 other girls behind me, knowing that they're going to pick me up when I fall short. I think that's been the most freeing mindset as a pitcher that I could have taken on the mound, is just trusting my defense, trusting that my offense is going to get their things done on the field. And I think it's helped me change my perspective on the game of softball, helped me better enjoy, the little things and the relationships that I have with these girls. I think it's freeing, definitely. And I think I'm excited to see what this season has in store in that perspective, is just being able to kind of pour into these girls and let them at the same time pour into me when I'm not full. I think that's going to be very beneficial for us moving forward.
Coach, you look at this lineup, and it's a unique blend of talent between some of the real veteran players that you've talked about in the circle with Ash and Sid, who've been with this program for a long time. You've got Madison Johnson, Lindsay Leal in the outfield and the infield that were all conference players last year that are veteran players. And then you had a couple of freshmen last year that came in and won the major awards in the SCAC and are just back for their second years. And how do you kind of blend all of that together, where maybe some young players that just were trying to be softball players last year that came in and took some of the most highest honors we have, how do they come back and get ready for a second year? How do you blend all that together? What are the challenges? And just talk a little about this group and what you're excited about heading into the year.
Well, I think it's going to be tougher for our young kids this year, in particular, Kaylee and Serena, just because there's no secrets about them anymore. Teams are going to be prepared for them. And so, and it's a sophomore season, the sophomore jinx and all that stuff. It's tough. I mean, it's a real thing. But you just hope that their preparation, and I think we're going to be better around them. Last year we depended so much on freshmen, and I think we saw that late in the year. I think we saw a little bit of that in the conference tournament, and we definitely saw that in the regional, where the pressure mounted, and they felt like they had to be perfect, and that's hard to play our game when you feel like you have to go 4 for 4. But I think in the circle, the experience we've got some young kids, there's some new faces that are going to rely heavily on the leadership of Sid and Ash and what they do and how they prepare for games and how they keep their bodies in shape and the stretch. And Sid does such a great job with that. She shows up every day. It's a job for her. You see her out there stretching and doing the things that she needs to do and getting her poles in. And Ash is totally opposite of that. Ash prepares totally different, but it's great to have that leadership with our upperclassmen, and we're going to have some new kids this year that aren't necessarily freshmen, but we'll be counting on some kids that have transferred in and some older kids that can help in the leadership role just because they've been there. Whether they're JUCO transfers, and we've got a few. We've got a senior, possibly 2 seniors that have transferred in from Division I schools that. Whether they help on the field or not, their leadership and their experience is going to help our younger kids for sure. So I'm excited for this year. I think we've got a few more pieces. We lost some kids that had been with us and to graduation, but I think we're going to see a little better team out on the softball field this year. Now, whether that equates to more wins or not, I don't know, but I think as coaches, it'll be a little tougher for us to try to figure out the lineup because there's not just a clear cut, we're still working on that right now. And I think we're going to see seniors all the way down to freshmen. We'll have some freshmen in our lineup this year, which is always exciting.
Sid, finally wrapping up with you, the bar obviously always set very high in Seguin, and that's credit to the work that you and your teammates have put in over the course of the year and the success that this program has had. When you've had conversations with some of the leaders and within your teammates groups about some of the goals and expectations coming into the year, what have those conversations looked like? What are some of those goals that this group has, and what's going to be key in order to try and accomplish those heading into the year?
I think our goal right now is to just continue to get better every single day, whether that's mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. I think there's so much room for improvement in the different areas of the game of softball that we can get better at. And I think that gives us something to strive for, something to come to practice and work towards. And I think as long as we continue to come to practice and put in our full effort and find ways to check in with ourselves and to check in with our teammates, I think that we're going to continue to make those forward steps towards our end goal, which is, of course, to win a national championship. But I think as long as we just take those little steps every single day that, take the task at hand. And I think we're going to be able to, do that every single day. So.
And finally, Coach, success can be measured, quantified in so many different ways. When you talk about success with your team, what are those conversations like? How do you try to quantify and measure success? And ultimately, what do you see as being a successful season this year at TLU?
It's tough. And we, as coaches, we struggle with this a lot because, at the end of the day, it's about wins and losses, right? And it's easy to get caught up in that. And you get to a point where it's kind of a double-edged sword, because you're riding it and win streaks and you get involved in that stuff. And we're fortunate to be in that situation. Don't get me wrong. But if you make it about that, I go back to the Patch Adams movie a lot. When they're in the movie, they're talking about if you treat the disease, you win some, you lose some, right? If you treat the patients, you always win. And it's the same thing in coaching. If we make this about winning and losing, we're going to win some and we're going to lose some, right? But if you make it about the relationship you build with your team and your teammates and the players that you have, then you always win, right? And I know that's a little cliche-ish, but it's got to be about that in those times, because if not, if it's just about winning and losing, boy, it's a tough game and it's hard to come to work every day because especially when you've had the success that we've been fortunate to have, it's tough. You're always chasing perfection to begin with, and then you get caught up in that, and it's real easy to do, and you lose perspective of what we're doing, and that's trying to influence young minds and college age kids to make them better citizens and better moms and dads and spouses and all that stuff. So sometimes we have to take a step back and realize why we're here.
Texas Lutheran University softball program. Again, head coach Wade Wilson, along with leadership from senior Sid Ouellette. The Bulldogs will open up the 2024 program campaign when they take on St. Mary's on February 6th. Coach Sid, thanks so much for your time today, and best of luck as you head into the year.
Thanks, Russell.